new licenses added for every year of a total of 755,000 in 2018. The FCC doesn't track demographic data of operators, but anecdotally, white males in their 60s and 70s make up much of the population. As these baby boomers age out, the fear is that there are too few young people to sustain the hobby. That's pretty much the their big takeaway, or my big takeaway out of this. I don't even know if this is a guy, Julian Peponti,
Never
Pepitone.
heard of them.
Yeah, never heard of him, but oh well. You guys could read the article for yourself. Spectrum.ieee.org/ham-radio. Right up there at the screen in the address bar. So if you guys want to pull that up, don't pull that up right now. Uh, don't go away from this. Anyway, right now, 44 people on the stream, and I got to jump back to camera 2, and I'm going to add, oh my Lord. Okay, now I need to go back where I can see everything. The pitfalls of live
Yeah.
streaming, live TV. I try to make it like live TV. Anyway, so this is kind of what I wanted to talk to. Now I did just some cursory research here. 41 people on the stream, 25 thumbs up. Hey, that should be 40, my friends. Come on, 40 people. Oh, now 39. Somebody went to go look at the article. So anyway, doing a little bit of just surface research into this IEEE, they have 400,000 members worldwide in 160 countries. More than 60% of their membership is from outside the U.S., and they are made up of engineers, scientists, and what they call allied professionals. The big question here is this an accurate representation? We've heard over the past few years, ham radio is dead, ham radio is dying. Personally, I don't see that. Personally, I see ham radio as thriving and gaining in numbers. I don't know. What do you see?
I agree with you on that. I would say, though, that it would be safer to assume that they're correct and try to continue to innovate on how we promote ham radio to play it safe. But I see ham radio thriving. I see it shifting around on what we're interested in as a whole. Things going digital. Maybe Morse code isn't as popular as it was 75 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But there are things that are even bringing that back. Soda is making Morse code popularized again. And I know the FT8 is kind of taking the wind out of Morse code right now. But I think with activities such as Soda and POTA, Morse code has a chance to, maybe come back and be really popular again. And, the whole thing about, I saw in the article, how do we get kids involved? And I think that's important, but at the same time, I don't think it's the demographic that we need to be aiming at, only aiming at, because a lot of people, like you said, are over the age of 40 or 50 in ham radio. Not that we should just target that demographic, but almost 40, and I got my license when I was young. I was in my teens,
Mm-hmm.
and high school came, and I kind of ham radio took a back seat. I think that's pretty common with kids getting into ham radio. So I think an important aspect to bolster our ranks, or at least maintain our ranks in ham radio, would be to target the group that's just coming out of high school or just coming out of college. Um, maybe in their late 20s, early 30s. People who now have an income and maybe are looking for a hobby. Uh,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
targeting children is important, because then it's something they can look back on and go, I want to get back into that. So I don't think one or the other is necessarily a solution. I think kind of a shotgun approach to a wide range of ages is important.
I like that. I totally agree with everything you've said. I think the demographic of ham radio, though, is also changing because of the advancements in technology. Um, you know, back 30, 40 years ago, ham radio was an engineer's sport. It was that the super smart guy, the inventor types. Um, well,
I have speaking to that point, let's see here.
I love it. I love that.
My
That
wife got
is
me the shirt, and I thought it might be appropriate with this topic.
that
So
is that is freaking awesome. I love it. But yeah, no, but seriously, with the advent of the ICOM 705, with I mean KX3s, and a lot of the portable stuff is kit based. So a lot of those guys are gonna, a lot of those old guys are going to be. Oh, what is that?
speaking of kit based, I'm not actually sure. I think it does come as a kit. This is a dual band FT8 QRP rig
Wow.
that I'm playing with right now. And you were talking about advancements in technology keeping the hobby alive.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little example of that. A little company called Venus iTech, I think. Um, Josh reviewed another one of their products, a handheld radio,
Mm-hmm.
a while back. And yeah, innovation like that, I think, is what's going to help keep the hobby going.
It does. And you've got a different type of person, or a different type of demographic that's moving into ham radio with, after, I'll say, the United States, because, I mean, we got guys from all over the world on here right now, which I think is so cool.
That's awesome.
And those guys, the guys in VK land, the guys in the UK, they're going to have a completely different ham radio experience than we do here in the United States. Different licensing, different requirements, different, in some cases, different bands or different segments of bands. And they have different equipment that comes to them than we get. But we have a demographic that's changed since the FCC dropped the requirement of CW. More people like me, non-technical hams, people that come from outside the science and engineering industries, are getting in. We're getting in for various other reasons. I mean, let's take a look at some of them. I mean, I would say, your outdoor enthusiasts are getting into ham radio in huge numbers right now. The hikers, the hunters, boaters. I know in Northern California they have, it's called the Tevis race, and they have a whole group of horseback riders that are equipping themselves with ham radio. Um, in the off-road segment of society, the side-by-side groups, ATVs, the Jeepers, motorcyclists, even racers, off-road and on-road racers, they're getting into radio, and they're exploring new ways to use radio, and a lot of teams, a lot of organizations, and people are getting into ham radio. They're actually considering that as a viable place to get their communication skills and get their communication game within their own hobbies. Um, the preppers, the emergency preparedness folks, that's a huge thing. And whether or not a lot of the preppers want to get licenses, well, some do, some don't want to be on lists. But you've got other groups, other people that are more into the Aries races, Red Cross thing. That Red Cross now is requiring a lot of their people, or they're encouraging a lot of their new volunteers to get licensed for ham radio, and these are typically non-technical people. Um, let's see. I want to get your comments on what you think, where ham radio is going or who it's going to.
Well, I do know that there are more people that are not necessarily um, getting into ham radio for the pure radio aspect of it, but to utilize the ham radio technology for the other hobby or project that they're into. Like, for instance, flying drones. If you have a ham radio license, you can use higher power output on your drone controller, either with an amplifier or a separate dedicated system, and fly your drone even further away, or other remote control projects such as that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that group of people shouldn't be ignored, because they tend to be technically minded, which would be in line with ham radio, I think. And even though they may not be getting into it for the pure radio aspect of the hobby, they could find that they really enjoy it and then stick around and use ham radio for more. And I agree with the whole prepper thing. Yeah, a lot of preppers, the prepper movement is really starting to embrace ham radio, and the people that go off-roading,
Mm-hmm.
the overlander people. Um, I think we need to also focus on not just maintaining our numbers, but also maintaining our bands. We recently, or I don't think it's happened yet, but we're losing a microwave band, right? I forget which band it is, but we're losing one of the microwave bands. They're phasing it out. And I don't want that to continue. I feel like that's a slippery slope, where the FCC is going to feel more pressure to auction off more of our spectrum. And if we're not using it, I mean, they've got every right to go, hey, you guys aren't using this stuff. We're going to put it to better use. So, we have no excuse to complain about losing bands if we're not the ones using them. Like, for instance, bands that could easily be targeted would be like the our access to the 33 centimeter band and the 23 centimeter band, 900 megahertz and 1200 megahertz would be prime real estate if they wanted to open that up to further licensing and cut it out of ham radio use. Right now, like, the 900 megahertz band is unlicensed for everyone else. They can just use it, and that spectrum is getting filled up with a lot of other projects utilizing 900 megahertz now. I know, like, 20 years ago, it was really only popular for like cordless phones and baby monitors. But now it's coming back.
Well, okay, as one of the non-technical hams, I I have seen or I've owned radios that do what is it, the 1.2 gigahertz. I had an ICOM 9100 that did that. The problem that I saw, non-technical guy that I am, there wasn't anything going on there. And so when
Yeah.
there's not anything going on, you don't use it. It's that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
Bands
What
are
we need is more
down, 10
projects.
meters sucked, so nobody got on 10 meters, and and then it doesn't come back, and all of a sudden, yeah, the FCC says, well, there's nobody using it. Let's let's sell it to UPS.
Right.
What can we do with some of these bands that you're talking about? I mean,
Everyone
you're
says just get on the air, but I think more needs to happen than that, because the FCC is not out there everywhere listening to every band going, oh well, they're not using this much, they're not using that much. They're looking, if they're going to look at all, it's going to be uh, what projects are out there that are utilizing the band and putting it to good use that would convince them to not mess with that band, for instance. So, like the 900 megahertz band and the 1.2 gigahertz band would be great for digital modes. Like, it is being utilized. It's just not being utilized enough. So there's that mesh network. I can't think of the name right now. Arden, I think. Arden
okay.
Mesh.
Yeah.
That's a great project that's utilizing both of those bands, 23 centimeter, 33 centimeter, and they're even using um, our access on 2.4 gigahertz and 5.8 gigahertz. We have access to, I think it's the bottom edge of the 2.4 gigahertz band, the Wi-Fi band, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also 5.8 gigahertz. And that project is utilizing those frequencies, all of those frequencies. I think even down to 70 centimeters for their mesh network. But we need more than that. We need more projects that that get people's attention and let you utilize it. So, like, something as popular as FT8 needs to come along and utilize, let's say, the 900 megahertz band, so that usage goes through the roof, and then that's really the best thing we can do to secure our bands, is to use them, heavily use them.
Mm-hmm. That, you know what a great idea. If one of these small manufacturers, the Venus Group or whatever, if they came out with an FT8 transceiver that worked on one of those, on the uh, the 800 megahertz band, or so one of these other bands, 1.2 gigahertz, and you had I don't know how much a radio kit like that costs, 300
Um,
bucks, something like that.
it's cheap. It's under 200, I think. I think it might even, don't quote me on this, but it might even be under 100. There's several little companies out there now that are making either pre-built or kit form single or dual band FT8 transceivers for very inexpensive, and they're pretty cool. And they're super small and lightweight. And a lot of them from the various companies I've played with, they look like this: metal enclosure, very simple, basically no interface other than maybe a VFO dial. Some of them are locked on a single frequency, such as the FT8 frequency or the JS8 call frequency. Um, I'm not sure FT8 is the solution to preserve those higher frequency bands. I think maybe taking some other projects that are more practical for those frequencies, like, for instance, APRS. APRS is widely used, and one of the fun things to do with APRS is beaconing through the International Space Station digipeater.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really fun. I've done that. I've showed people that. The problem is you have to use this beam antenna, that's this Yagi that is not super portable, especially when it's deployed. And I don't know if you've heard of like a Spot device, Spot GPS satellite tracker. You ever heard of that product?
Oh
Or
yeah.
the Garmin
Yes.
InReach?
Yeah.
There's nothing special about those other than the frequency they operate on. They're
Hmm.
operating on a much higher frequency, up in the low to mid gigahertz range. And we have access to frequencies near those frequencies. And those products only transmit like 1 watt. So it's not rocket science to realize that you could relatively easily, have a digipeater on one of those CubeSats
Hmm.
that they're putting up. There's APRS CubeSat projects every couple years. They go up semi regularly, and it just takes someone doing it to get a digipeater up on. I don't think they can do 900 megahertz because I think there's some restrictions on space communications on that band. But I mean, why not change that? Why not allow that? Just because there's a rule doesn't mean the rule can't change. We've been changing rules in ham radio since the beginning of ham radio. I mean, anyone can go look up on Wikipedia the all the changes that have taken place, all the rules that have changed, all the licensing changes that have taken place. We've gained bands, we've lost bands over and over again, over like 100 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's nothing new to change the rules, and I think we should be utilizing those frequencies for more ham radio space comms, like an APRS digipeater, because then you could have initially it would be just a handheld. So there's like a Linko handheld. I think there's an ICOM. Is there an ICOM handheld that does 1.2 gigahertz?
Oh, there is?
I think there's an Alinco. They may have discontinued it, but that's what I'm worried about, is these manufacturers discontinuing products that support these already underutilized bands. We need more projects out there.
Well, bands as
That,
simple as a 220. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
that could be huge if manufacturers would support it. And I
But see,
guess
the
the manufacturers won't support it because they don't see the market for it, and it's the
yeah,
self-fulfilling prophecy.
it's
Because
up to us.
in the age of microprocessors, we're not going out and we're not going to build our crystal radio for the 220 band to activate the 220 band. We got to get that share from the people who have the know-how and can program this stuff. All right, guys, these are what I call little live bits from the big live show that I do on Mondays called Lunch and Ham Radio, Mondays noon Mountain Time, where we can explore subjects in depth, do a lot more back and forth. Audience participation is key, and we have a great time. Join us on Mondays if you can. If you can't, I'm going to try to break some of these little segments out into bite-sized pieces. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining. I'm Bob, K6UDA. I'm out of here. 7-3.